There comes a time in every life when we realize that the battles we face are not always on the outside. They are often on the inside, in the quiet moments when our own thoughts begin to shape how we see ourselves, how we see the world, and how we respond to the circumstances around us. What we believe in our hearts, what we allow our minds to dwell on, these things have a way of becoming our reality, and if we are not careful, they can keep us trapped in fear, doubt, and limitation. But there is a power in the human mind that too many people overlook. A power to change, a power to rise, a power to transform the course of our lives by simply choosing to think differently. Every thought we nurture has the potential to either lift us or weigh us down, to build strength or reinforce weakness. And when we begin to see that our inner dialogue is not just noise but the foundation of our life, everything changes. Shifting your thoughts is not about pretending problems do not exist. It is not about ignoring difficulty or refusing to face reality. It is about choosing to see possibility where others see defeat, choosing to focus on what can grow rather than what holds you back, and choosing to align your mind with the life you were meant to live. It is in this decision, this commitment to guide your thinking, that transformation begins. Because when the mind shifts, everything else follows. There is a truth in life that many people fail to see, a truth that sits quietly behind every decision, every action, every moment of joy or struggle, and that truth is that your mind is not just a passenger in your life. It is the driver, and the way you think determines the road you travel, the obstacles you encounter, and the victories you claim. Most people walk through life unaware of this power, letting circumstances dictate how they feel, letting other people's opinions shape their reality, letting fear, doubt, and uncertainty control their direction, and in doing so, their reality. They surrender the most powerful tool they have, the tool that can build or destroy their life, the tool that can create possibilities out of nothing, the tool that can turn ordinary into extraordinary. Recognizing the power of your own mind starts with awareness, understanding that the thoughts you entertain are not harmless, that they carry weight, influence, and consequence. Because every thought you think creates an energy that either moves you forward or pulls you backward. And if you do not consciously guide your thinking, it will be guided for you by old habits, by fear, by doubt. The mind is a creative force. It sees patterns, it shapes perception. It interprets the world around you, and it turns those interpretations into actions that then produce results. And those results feed back into your thinking, creating cycles of success or cycles of limitation. If you constantly tell yourself you are not ready, not enough, not capable, you begin to believe it, and that belief influences your choices, your confidence, your willingness to act, and soon the reality you experience reflects those thoughts, confirming the limits you imposed on yourself long before the world could. But when you recognize the power of your own mind, when you understand that thought precedes action, that belief precedes behavior, that mindset precedes outcome, you begin to take responsibility for what lives in your head, for the stories you tell yourself, for the narratives that guide your life. This recognition does not happen overnight. It is a practice, a discipline, a commitment to watch your thoughts as carefully as you watch the path ahead, to notice when your mind drifts toward fear or doubt, and to consciously redirect it toward possibility, growth, and purpose. Every thought you choose to focus on is like a seed planted in fertile soil, and if you feed it with belief, with action, with persistence, it will grow, it will bear fruit, it will shape your reality in ways you may not yet imagine. When you begin to see your mind as the architect of your life, you stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for luck. You stop surrendering your power to outside forces. And you start designing the life you want through the choices you make internally. This does not mean ignoring challenges, avoiding responsibility, or pretending life is easy. It means understanding that no challenge can dictate your future unless you allow it to, that no setback can define you unless you accept it as the final word, that no obstacle can limit you unless you give it control over your thinking. Recognizing this power also means understanding the connection between perception and reality, that two people can face the same situation and experience it in completely different ways, not because the world changed, but because their minds interpreted it differently, because their thoughts created the lens through which they viewed what was happening. You can train your mind to see opportunity where others see failure, to see lessons where others see loss, to see hope where others see despair. And when you do, your reality shifts, not because the world is suddenly different, but because your inner world has changed, and that inner shift always precedes an outer transformation. This process requires intention, because the mind naturally gravitates toward what is familiar, toward comfort, toward patterns that may no longer serve you, and if you do not guide it, it will continue to reinforce old limitations, old fears, old doubts. The practice of shaping your reality through your mind begins with attention, noticing the thoughts you allow to take residence in your consciousness, and with choice, deciding which thoughts will serve you and which will not, and with action, reinforcing those thoughts through consistent behavior, through habits, through the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. It also requires courage, because seeing the power of your mind means you can no longer blame others. You can no longer wait for circumstances to be perfect. You can no longer hide behind excuses. And true power always requires responsibility, always demands accountability, always challenges you to rise. When you fully embrace this truth, you begin to notice subtle shifts, the way your energy changes when you think, in terms of possibility rather than limitation, the way your confidence grows when you speak to yourself with belief rather than doubt, the way doors begin to open, not because luck intervened, but because your mindset aligned with action, purpose, and perseverance. You start to understand that reality is not fixed, that it is fluid, that it responds to the input you provide through your thinking, and that you are not merely a passenger in life, you are a creator, a shaper, a force that has the ability to influence not only what happens to you, but how you experience everything that comes your way. Every day becomes an opportunity to practice this awareness, to strengthen your mind, to challenge limiting beliefs, to replace fear with faith, doubt with determination, hesitation with action, because every thought you choose is building the life you will live tomorrow. And the more consistently you recognize and harness this power, the more your life begins to reflect it, the more you experience success, growth, fulfillment, and peace, because your reality is no longer something that happens. To you, it is something you actively create, moment by moment, thought by thought, choice by choice, and in this recognition, in this mastery of your own mind, you discover freedom, purpose, and the extraordinary potential of a life shaped from within. There is a force in life more powerful than circumstance, more persistent than obstacles, more influential than talent. And that force lives quietly in the mind, hidden beneath the surface of your thoughts, shaping the way you see yourself, the way you see the world, and ultimately the life you create. Those are your beliefs, the assumptions you carry about who you are, what you deserve, and what is possible for you. And while some of them lift you, some of them quietly hold you back, keeping you smaller than you were meant to be, keeping you stuck in patterns that do not serve your growth. Most people go through life unaware of the beliefs that guide their decisions, unaware that the voice inside their head often speaks in limitations rather than possibility. That voice repeats messages learned long ago, messages picked up from parents, teachers, learned long ago, messages picked up from parents, teachers, society, or past failures. And if left unchecked, those beliefs become chains that restrain potential, convincing you that your dreams are too big, your goals too distant, or your talent too small. The first step in overcoming these invisible barriers is awareness, recognizing that they exist, noticing the recurring thoughts that undermine confidence, self-worth, and ambition. Limiting beliefs often hide in plain sight, disguised as facts, truths you have accepted without question, assumptions that feel permanent, but nothing is more temporary than a belief held unconsciously. Once you identify these beliefs, you can begin to question them. Ask yourself whether they are true, whether there is evidence to support them, and whether they serve the life you want to build. If you will discover that the beliefs that have been holding you back are based on fear, outdated experiences, or opinions that never belonged to you in the first place. They are not your truth, they are inherited obstacles that have taken residence in your mind. The power comes not just in identifying these beliefs, but in replacing them with ones that empower. A limiting belief says you cannot, but a new belief says you can. A limiting belief says you are not enough, but a new belief affirms your worth, your capability, and your resilience. Every thought you choose to reinforce through repetition, through action, through consistency, strengthens the new belief until it becomes part of your identity. This replacement is not merely mental gymnastics. It requires action. Thoughts alone do not reshape reality, but thoughts followed by aligned behavior do. When you speak differently to yourself, when you act differently than your old beliefs dictate, when you take risks that contradict the stories you have been telling yourself, you begin to prove to your mind that the new belief is real. It is a process that demands patience, discipline, and courage, because the old beliefs are comfortable, familiar, and persuasive. They will resist being replaced. They will whisper that change is impossible, that failure is inevitable, that you should settle for what is safe. And in those moments, you must remind yourself that comfort is not growth, familiarity is not progress, and the life you were meant to live lies beyond the boundaries of those beliefs. You start with small actions, with thoughts you repeat each day, with decisions that contradict limitation. You practice affirming your worth, envisioning success, and taking steps toward your goals despite fear. Every success, every lesson, every moment of resilience chips away at the old belief and reinforces the new, creating a momentum that begins to shift your reality. Surrounding yourself with influence that supports the new beliefs accelerates the process. People, books, experiences, and environments that challenge limitation and encourage growth help solidify the mindset you are cultivating. Likewise, distancing yourself from voices, habits, and patterns that reinforce the old beliefs prevents regression and protects the progress you are making. The journey also requires self-compassion, because the process of replacing beliefs is not linear. You will falter, you will revert to old thought patterns, and there will be moments when doubt resurfaces. In those moments, patience and persistence matter more than speed. Each time you catch yourself falling back into limitation and redirect your mind, you strengthen your capacity to think differently, to act differently, and to live differently, and to live differently. The transformative power of this work becomes clear when you see how it changes not only what you do, but how you see yourself. Tasks that once seemed impossible begin to feel attainable. Risks that once terrified you become opportunities to grow, and the life you once thought was out of reach starts to unfold before you because your internal narrative has shifted. Every action you take in alignment with empowering beliefs reinforces your identity as someone capable of growth, resilience, and achievement. Confidence builds not from luck or external validation, but from the consistency of acting in ways that affirm your new understanding of yourself. The world begins to respond differently because you have reshaped the lens through which you view it. And eventually, what once held you back becomes invisible, replaced entirely by the new beliefs you have cultivated. Limitation loses its grip because it no longer aligns with the reality you have created. And your potential, once stifled by fear and doubt, begins to expand freely, creating a life of progress, fulfillment, and purpose. In the end, the power to transform your life is never outside of you. It resides in your mind, in the beliefs you choose to carry, in the thoughts you choose to nurture, and in the courage to confront and replace the ones that hold you back. When you commit to this process fully, you discover that nothing in life has the power to stop you except the limits you accept. And once those limits are removed, the life you were meant to live becomes possible, tangible, and real. There comes a time in every life when the road ahead feels impossible, when the obstacles seem too high, when the weight of circumstances presses down and makes it hard to take the next step. And in that moment, most people see only the difficulty, the setback, the problem, and they stop moving. They hesitate. They give up, not realizing that the very situation that feels like a wall can become a doorway, if only you choose to see it differently. Challenges are not just obstacles to be endured. They are opportunities waiting to be recognized, lessons disguised as hardships, and the difference between being stuck and moving forward is the way you look at them. The mind has a way of magnifying struggle, of making difficulty seem larger than it is, of convincing you that failure is permanent. But perspective is the tool that can transform what seems impossible into a path of growth and achievement. To shift your perspective means to pause, to step back, and to ask yourself what this challenge is teaching you, what strength it is cultivating, what doors it might be opening that you cannot yet see. Every challenge carries a seed of opportunity, but if your mind is fixed on frustration, fear, or defeat, that seed will remain buried, never given the chance to grow. It starts with awareness, noticing the automatic response of the mind to see obstacles as threats rather than possibilities. Most people react to challenges with resistance, with avoidance, with complaint, and in doing so, they reinforce the idea that life is working against them. But when you begin to recognize that the power to interpret the situation lies within you, that your perception can either limit you or elevate you, everything changes. A shift in perspective does not mean ignoring reality or pretending that the challenge is easy. It means choosing to see beyond the immediate discomfort, to see what you can learn, what you can control, and how you can respond in a way that builds strength, wisdom, and resilience. It means looking at failure not as a verdict, but as feedback, not as an ending, but as a signal to adjust, to grow, and to try again with more insight. When you take a challenge and ask how it can serve you, how it can refine you, how it can push you to become better than you were yesterday, you begin to transform your experience from one of frustration to one of opportunity. Every setback becomes a chance to sharpen your skills, to deepen your character, to stretch your patience, and to strengthen your resolve. This process requires discipline because the mind naturally gravitates toward negativity, toward fear, toward seeing problems as insurmountable. You must train yourself to pause, to question the automatic interpretations, and to replace them with possibilities, with lessons, with purpose. Each time you do this, you strengthen your ability to respond to life with clarity rather than confusion, with courage rather than doubt. Perspective also requires patience because the opportunities within challenges are not always immediately obvious. Sometimes the growth comes slowly, sometimes the lesson only becomes clear in hindsight, and the true strength lies in continuing to see the potential while walking through. The difficulty? Trusting that the effort you put in now will bear fruit later. A shift in perspective can also change the way you interact with others, because when you see challenges as opportunities, you stop blaming, stop complaining, and start focusing on solutions, on collaboration, on action. You become a person who contributes rather than withdraws, a person who sees potential where others see limitation, and that mindset attracts opportunities, people, and circumstances that align with growth. Every great achievement, every story of resilience, is rooted in this ability to see opportunity in the midst of struggle. Those who succeed are not the ones who avoid challenges, but the ones who rise to them, who extract the lesson, who use the difficulty as fuel for growth. They know that the obstacle is not the enemy. The enemy is the mindset that tells them they cannot overcome it. Your response to challenge defines your trajectory more than the challenge itself. Two people can face the same setback, the same disappointment, the same hardship, and one will crumble while the other grows stronger, not because of luck, talent, or circumstance, but because of perspective, because of the choice to interpret difficulty as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. This does not mean every challenge is easy to face. It does not mean the process is without pain. It means that within the struggle lies a lesson, a chance, a doorway to something greater if you are willing to see it, willing to shift your thinking, willing to act with insight rather than reaction. As you practice this shift, you begin to notice how life responds differently. Problems that once felt overwhelming become manageable, setbacks become temporary, and even failure becomes informative. Your confidence grows because you have experienced the power of choice, the ability to direct your mind, the ability. Why to find opportunity where others see none? Every challenge you face, becomes a proving ground, a chance to refine your character, strengthen your determination, and expand your capability. You learn to approach life with intentionality and expand your capability, not waiting for conditions to be perfect, not hoping for problems to disappear, but choosing to find value in every circumstance, to extract meaning from every hardship, and to grow in ways that comfort could never produce. When you master this mindset, life itself begins to shift. You stop being a passive observer, reacting to circumstance. You become an active participant, shaping your experience, guiding your response, and creating a trajectory that leads to growth, resilience, and achievement. Challenges no longer intimidate you, they educate you. Setbacks no longer discourage you, they strengthen you. And over time, this perspective becomes second nature. You no longer see life as a series of problems to endure. You see life as a series of opportunities to grow, to learn, to rise, and to become more than you were yesterday. Your reality transforms because your mind, trained to see potential in every difficulty, directs your actions toward growth. And what once seemed like an obstacle becomes a stepping stone to the life you were meant to live. The way you interpret challenge shapes the person you become. And when you choose to see every difficulty as an opportunity, your life reflects that choice, creating a path of resilience, purpose, and achievement that cannot be taken away, because it is rooted in the strength of your mind, the clarity of your perspective, and the commitment to turn every hardship into a chance to rise. There is a truth about life that few people understand, and it is this: strength and resilience are not born. They are cultivated, they are built, they are forged in the quiet, unseen moments when no one is tishing, when you make the decision to think differently, to act intentionally, and to refuse to let circumstance define who you are. Every great accomplishment, every story of perseverance, every life that stands tall in the face of adversity, is rooted in the daily habits of the mind, the repeated choices to strengthen thought, to discipline emotion, and to direct energy toward growth. Most people live passively, allowing their thoughts to drift, allowing negativity to take root, allowing fear and doubt to dictate their response to life. But the mind is not a passenger. It is the foundation of your experience, the architect of your reality. And if you neglect it, you build weakness into your life without even realizing it. Strength and resilience are the products of intentional thinking, of consistent mental practice, and of a commitment to nurture habits that reinforce courage, focus, and determination. Practicing daily thought habits begins with awareness. You must notice what occupies your mind. The recurring patterns, the conversations you hold internally, the judgments, fears, and doubts that rise unconsciously. Awareness is the first step, because you cannot change what you do not recognize. Most people spend their days reacting automatically, repeating old narratives that limit them, and wonder why life feels heavier than it should. Noticing these patterns gives you the power to intervene, to redirect, to reshape the story you are telling yourself. Once you are aware, you begin the work of choice. You choose what thoughts to cultivate and which to let go. Daily mental practice is like training a muscle. The more you focus on empowering thoughts, the stronger your mind becomes. You replace doubt with determination, hesitation with decision, fear with faith, and each repetition reinforces a new pathway in the brain that strengthens your ability to respond, to lie, fee with confidence rather than panic, with action rather than avoidance. One powerful habit is gratitude. Every day, acknowledging what is good in your life trains your mind to notice possibility rather than lack. Gratitude rewires your perspective, shifting focus from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to appreciation. When you train your mind to find even small blessings in each day, resilience grows naturally because you are no longer dependent on circumstances to feel fulfilled. You carry a sense of stability that cannot be shaken by external events. Another habit is intentional visualization. Picture yourself handling challenges with strength, achieving goals despite obstacles, and navigating life with clarity and courage. This is not wishful thinking. It is preparation. The mind does not always distinguish between vividly imagined success and reality. When you practice seeing yourself overcome difficulties in your thoughts, you prime your brain to act in alignment with that vision, building confidence and resilience before you even encounter the challenge. Affirmation is another daily habit that shapes strength. The words you speak to yourself become a blueprint for your behavior. Repeating affirmations that reinforce your value, your capability, and your purpose strengthens belief in your ability to navigate life's difficulties. Thought reinforced by speech is thought anchored in reality. It becomes a guiding principle when doubt tries to creep in. Daily reflection also builds resilience. Take time each evening to review the day, to notice moments when you reacted from fear or doubt, and to identify moments when you acted from strength or courage. Reflection is a mirror for growth, showing you where your habits are serving you and where they need adjustment. Without reflection, learning is limited, and strength develops more slowly. Challenges are inevitable, but daily thought habits prepare you to meet them. Each morning, you set the tone for the day by choosing empowering thoughts, by reinforcing belief in yourself, and by aligning your mind with purpose. Each evening you review, you correct, you reinforce. The repetition compounds. Over time, strength becomes automatic, resilience becomes a default, and your mind becomes a fortress that cannot be easily shaken by circumstance. Discipline is essential because the mind resists change. Old patterns are comfortable, and fear often disguises itself as logic. You will have days when negative thoughts rise uninvited, when doubt threatens to overpower resolve, when life challenges everything you have cultivated. That is precisely when your habits matter most, because strength is tested not in ease but in resistance, not in comfort but in pressure. Surrounding yourself with influence that supports growth reinforces the habits you practice. People who inspire, challenge, and hold you accountable strengthen your mental discipline. Books, podcasts, mentorship, and experiences that stretch you intellectually and emotionally provide fuel for the habits you are building. Avoiding toxic influence is equally important, because exposure to repeated negativity erodes the resilience you are cultivating daily. As you persist, something remarkable happens. The mind begins to default to strength. Adversity no longer paralyzes you, criticism no longer shakes you, and uncertainty no longer terrifies you. Daily thought habits create a mental architecture that supports confident decision-making, calm under pressure, and unwavering focus on purpose. Challenges become opportunities to apply what you have practiced, not threats that overwhelm you. Over time, your life transforms because your responses, your energy, and your choices are guided by intentional mental practice rather than automatic reaction. You carry a sense of stability and power that others notice, because strength and resilience are not just internal. They manifest in posture, in speech, in the way you handle setbacks, in the consistency of your action. The beauty of daily thought habits is that they compound. One day of practice shapes tomorrow's mindset. One week of focus builds momentum. 1 month of commitment transforms your confidence. You begin to approach life proactively rather than reactively, choosing your response to circumstance rather than allowing circumstances to dictate your experience. Ultimately, strength and resilience are not accidents of circumstance. They are the result of daily choices, of conscious thought habits, of the decision to train the mind with the same diligence one would train the body. When you commit to this practice, life becomes a series of challenges met with courage, obstacles turned into lessons, setbacks transformed into fuel, and every day becomes an opportunity to reinforce the power that lives within you. And when you reach the point where these habits are ingrained, when strength and resilience have become natural responses, you realize that nothing outside of you can control your peace, your focus, or your determination, because your inner world has been trained to create power, stability, and growth. No matter what life throws your way, there is a quiet voice inside each of us, a voice that never stops speaking, that follows us into every room, every conversation, every moment of decision. That voice is not just background noise, it is the architect of your life, the one shaping your confidence, your actions, your relationships, and ultimately the level of purpose and fulfillment you experience. Most people do not realize how much their inner dialogue controls them. They let it wander unchecked, repeat old stories of limitation, replay, fear and doubt, and in doing so, they hand over the reins of their life to an unseen force that often works against them. But what if you took control of that voice? What if you decided that every thought, every word you speak to yourself would be intentional, guided by your highest vision, your greatest potential? Living a life of purpose begins in the mind because the story you tell yourself shapes the reality you create. Purpose is not something that falls into your lap. It is something you construct, brick by brick, thought by thought, with a mindset that refuses to settle for mediocrity or distraction. Controlling your inner dialogue requires awareness. You have to listen closely to what you are saying to yourself when no one else is around. Do you tell yourself you are capable, that you are worthy, that your life matters? Or do you replay doubts, replay regrets, replay fears that drain your energy and cloud your judgment? Awareness is the first step, because you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. Most people live unconsciously, letting thoughts that do not serve them dictate decisions, actions, and ultimately their destiny. Once you become aware, the next step is intentionality. You must decide which thoughts to nurture and which to discard. Limiting thoughts must be challenged and replaced with empowering alternatives. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I cannot," "I am not ready," or "I am not enough," you replace it with "I am capable," "I am growing," and "I am becoming the person I was meant to be." Repetition strengthens these new thought patterns, gradually reshaping the voice that guides your actions. Daily practice is essential. Controlling your inner dialogue is not a one-time decision. It is a habit, cultivated through consistent effort. Begin each day by affirming your worth, your purpose, your ability to make a difference. Reflect on your action. Each evening, noticing moments when your inner voice led you toward growth and moments when it held you back. This ongoing dialogue creates a feedback loop that reinforces positive thought and builds mental resilience over time. Visualization is another powerful tool. Imagine yourself navigating challenges with grace, handling conflict with wisdom, and moving toward your goals with clarity and confidence. When your inner dialogue is aligned with these images, you prime your mind to act in accordance with the life you want to create. The brain does not distinguish between vividly imagined success and real experience, so your intentional thoughts guide your actions, gradually turning vision into reality. Challenges will arise, and your inner voice will test you. Old patterns of doubt and fear will attempt to reclaim space, and there will be moments when negativity tries to pull you back into old ways of thinking. That is precisely when control matters most. Strength is not built in comfort. It is built in discipline, in choosing every day to redirect your thoughts toward possibility, purpose, and action, even when circumstances tempt you to surrender to doubt. Surround yourself with influence that reinforces the dialogue you want to cultivate. People who inspire, challenge, and elevate you strengthen the voice you hear within. Books, mentors, and experiences that stretch your understanding provide the reinforcement your mind needs to internalize the patterns of thought that lead to fulfillment. Conversely, distance yourself from negativity, gossip, and criticism that feed doubt and drain energy. Your inner dialogue is a garden, and what you allow to grow will determine the harvest. Living intentionally also requires honesty. You must confront the areas where your inner voice has been dishonest, where self-sabotage or fear has held sway. Acknowledge past mistakes, forgive yourself, and use those lessons as fuel for growth. When your inner dialogue speaks truth, you can make decisions grounded in reality, aligned with purpose, and guided by integrity. As your inner dialogue becomes disciplined, as your thoughts are consistently aligned with your values and vision, life begins to reflect it. Obstacles become opportunities. Failures become lessons. Challenges become proof of your resilience. The external world may still test you, but your internal compass remains steady, guiding you toward meaningful work, authentic relationships, and lasting fulfillment. You begin to realize that purpose is not found in external validation, wealth, or status. Purpose is cultivated in the way you think, the intentions behind your actions, the alignment of your mind, heart, and behavior. Fulfillment is the natural consequence of consistently nurturing thoughts that reinforce worth, capability, and direction. Because when your inner world is controlled, your outer world follows. Daily commitment is the key. Each time you correct a limiting thought, each time you reinforce your value, each time you visualize success and act in alignment with that vision, you strengthen your capacity for a life driven by purpose. Your confidence grows, your resilience deepens, and your clarity sharpens until living with intention becomes second nature, and the life you lead is a reflection of the deliberate choices you make within. Eventually, controlling your inner dialogue transforms not only your life, but the way you interact with the world. You become a source of calm, focus, and inspiration. People respond to your energy, your decisiveness, and your clarity. You move through life with a sense of authority over your own experience, no longer tossed by circumstance, criticism, or fear. Your mind, trained and disciplined, becomes the foundation for a life that is both purposeful and deeply fulfilling. And when you fully embrace this, you understand that fulfillment is never external. It cannot be handed to you or found by chasing others' definitions of success. It emerges from within, cultivated in the thoughts you choose, the stories you tell yourself, and the inner dialogue that guides every step. By controlling that dialogue, by shaping it with awareness, intention, and consistency, you create a life that is unwavering, meaningful, and aligned with your highest potential. You discover that the power to live fully, to act boldly, and to achieve lasting fulfillment has been in your mind all along, waiting for you to recognize it, harness it, and let it lead you toward the life you were always capable of living. And as you move forward, understand this clearly. The life you dream of, the purpose you seek, and the fulfillment you long for are not handed to you by luck or circumstance. They are built in the quiet moments when you choose what to think, in the conversations you have with yourself when no one else is listening, in the discipline to direct your inner voice toward growth rather than doubt. Your inner dialogue is the most powerful tool you have. It shapes your decisions, fuels your actions, and ultimately defines the trajectory of your life. Every day presents the chance to strengthen that voice, to replace fear with courage, hesitation with resolve, and doubt with belief. When you consistently guide your thoughts, your mindset becomes a foundation of power, resilience, and clarity. Challenges no longer intimidate you because your internal compass remains steady. Opportunities become visible because your mind is trained to see them. And fulfillment follows naturally because you are no longer drifting through life, you are creating it intentionally. Remember, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thoughts. Control your inner dialogue, and you control your reality. Speak to yourself with intention, act with purpose, and live in alignment with the person you are meant to be. Because when your mind leads, your life follows, and fulfillment becomes inevitable.